Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Everyone Watches Women's Tennis YouTube channel. Thank you so much for joining me for my second ever video. And quite frankly, it's similar to the first video I posted here. I will just be predicting every single round of the women's singles for Indian Wells until I get a winner. I really hope you enjoy the video. I don't have too much else to say. I'm just gonna get on with it. Oh, yes. And before I get on with it, make sure you comment, subscribe if you haven't, and like this video. It's really helpful. And this is editing Mati here. I just want to say very sorry for that abrupt ending to the intro. I didn't realize that it stopped filming because I ran out of storage, so it just cut out everything else I want to say. But essentially, I was just saying follow everything that I've got linked below. So my Instagram, and I think that's all. And then also I will link below the draw that I used to be able to pick like the winner. There, I think it's bracket.tennis. They do that for almost every tournament, and it's very, very helpful. And yeah, okay, I've got it all set out. Before we proceed, I do want to apologize for the lighting. I know I'm recording on my laptop, like the webcam, so it's probably not that big of a deal. But I'm recording at night because Indian Wells starts in about 6 hours, and I am in Australia, so the time difference is just not the best. And I really want to get this video out by round one, or at least while round one is happening. So let me do this quickly for you. So obviously, looking at the draw, the seeds 1 to 32 start off with a bye, so they don't play anyone until the second round. And my initial thoughts when looking at the draw is that I think it's like pretty evenly spread out. I think it's quite top heavy, especially the first quarter. Like when you think of names like obviously Sabalenka, and then you've got those rising teenagers in like Maya Joint, Iva Jovic, and Victoria Mboko. But then you've also got people that have won in the past in Naomi Osaka. Where is she? Then you've got Naomi Osaka there. And then you've got Amanda Anisimova, who is always a threat. So I think this first quarter is quite difficult. Um, and it seems like they've grouped Sabalenka with all the children. And then second quarter, again, depending on which Coco comes to the tournament, I think she'll be fine. But she has a potentially really difficult match against Bianca Andreescu if Bianca's playing better, and also she's a past winner. Then going down, um, sorry, still on Coco. I think her potential quarterfinal is good though. Um, which would be Jasmine Paolini, but I have a feeling Paolini won't make it that far. Then we've got Jessica Pagula, who is playing just some tremendous tennis at the moment. And I think she has a difficult draw as well, but again, she can maneuver it pretty well. And it also depends on which versions of these players show up. Because sometimes it's like you can hype up a match, but the version that you expect doesn't show up, especially when it comes to like Ostapenko. Then scrolling down, and she's got Elena Rybakina in her quarter, so that would be a very interesting quarterfinal rematch of the Australian Open semi-final. And then going down to the last quarter, I think again these are just initial reactions. When I go through it, maybe things will start looking a bit different. But Iga, in my opinion, has the easiest draw out of everyone here. Um, I think she probably won't get challenged until even the quarterfinals. I know that we've got the Maria Sakkari potential in the third round, and Maria looked great, played really well against Iga in she played really well against Iga in Qatar, but Iga did have the match in her hand, and in my opinion, she threw it away. So who knows? But let's get this started. So we'll start from the top. So again, bye for the one number one. Alicia Parks got a wild card and she plays qualifier Himeno Sakatsume. Qualifiers, don't write them off super easily because they're already in the groove of things. So when it comes to playing the tournament, they already have a rhythm. But I think Alicia Parks should be okay to get through that match. I've never seen Jimeno play. Then Jacqueline Christian versus Janice Chen. Jacqueline Christian is a great player. She's always so close in matches. She's always really close, but can never get over the line. And Janice Chen's been playing well and just like rising up the rankings steadily, getting more experience on the main tour. I think I'll pick Janice Chen to go through. Again, they've never played each other, so it'll be a new match for everyone. Then Maya Joint a bye, Iva Jovic a bye. Then we've got Sloane Stephens versus Camila Osorio. Have they played before? They've never played before, which is I think kind of surprising. Like Sloane's obviously a veteran; she's been around for a while, and Camilla's been in the game for a while as well. Sloane Stephens has been trying to get in the groove of things. And Camilla is also like unpredictable, but she fights and digs in. But I'll say it's because I kind of want to see the match, like the youngsters versus the veterans. So I'll say Sloane Stephens to beat Cortez. Um, Sloane Stephens has so much talent in like her pinky finger. It's crazy. When I watch her play, especially when she's playing her best, I'm like, it just looks so easy for her. It like tennis looks really easy for her. Okay, going to Victoria Jimenez Katinseva from Andorra versus Katie McNally. Katie came back on the tour last year, so and she's been looking pretty good, relatively healthy and fit, which is what I think she wants at this point in her career. Let's say again, just pick the Americans since they're at home and it's the first round. Then Naomi Osaka's got a bye, and Boko's got a bye. Then Kimberly Birrell and Oksana Selekmeteva. Oksana Selekmeteva has actually been going like under the radar. I saw her play Jessica Pegula at the Australian Open. She ended up losing the match in straight sets, but she played relatively well considering the standard that she was up against. And she's also a left-handed player, so I think that might cause Kimberly Birrell some issues. So I think Oksana Selekmeteva to go through. And again, they've never played. Usually these first round matches, there's usually with the first round matches, some of the people have never played each other before. So, all right. So going on to Zeynep Sonmez versus McCartney Kessler. Sonmez hasn't had she did okay at the Australian Open, making the third round, but she hasn't been looked show stopping. But neither has McCartney Kessler. Again, I'm gonna pick the American to go through since we're on home surface for them, on home turf. Kalinskaya by, Raducanu by. Then we've got Ella Seidel and Anastasia Zakharova. Zakharova made it through as a qualifier. I haven't watched Ella Seidel. I've seen some of her results and I've been impressed here and there. Not super consistent yet, especially at the top end of the tennis. And Zakharova can play a great game and give some competition, but I think pick Ella Seidel to win that match. Then we've got Dalma Galfi versus Blinkova. I'll pick Blinkova to win that match. Not too much explanation. I just think Anna Blinkova, her game has kind of plateaued and she hasn't been around a lot. Anisimova bye, Coco bye. Okay, then we've got Bianca Andreescu versus Kamila Rakimova. This one I'm picking with my heart because I like Rakimova as well, but I really want Bianca Andreescu to be back in like the top 100, back competing for these big titles. And this is also where she, I guess, made a name for herself. Um, so, but Rakimova can play well. She hasn't been based on the results here. Um, but, and honestly, Andreescu hasn't been playing great either, but she's been trying to get matches under her belt playing on the ITF tour. So I'm going to pick Andreescu. I'm picking with my heart. Then we've got Yastremska versus Shui Zhang. Okay, on like initial glance, without looking at the head to head, I would pick Yastremska. But Yastremska is a great player, but she's streaky in matches, and I think that's where Shuai has beaten her before because she can be consistent. And her form hasn't been too bad. She made it to the semifinals of the Merida Open, so she comes into this with some wins under her belt. I'll pick Shuai Zhang to win this match. Then we've got Ayala against Schneider. Oh, sorry, Ayala and Schneider have bias. They're not playing each other, not yet at least. Then Castella versus Tatiana Maria. I think Castella is will get through that match. She again leads the head to head 3-0. She's also on a high from winning in Romania at the Transylvania Open. Plus, yeah, I just think she's on a better roll, and this is her goodbye tour, so I'm sure she'd want to do something big at at Indian Wells. Then we've got JBM versus BHM, as I like to call them. In my podcast, there was an episode, and I predicted Jessica Buzas Minero to have a brilliant year. It has not been going that way at all so far. So I'm hoping she starts to prove me wrong. But her tennis has just been looking a bit lackluster. She seems to be more up for matches when she's playing a higher ranked opponent. But then also Beatrice Harajmaya, it's just the results are just on and off, on and off, and just so many losses in a row. So I think we'll go with JBM to get through that one. Some buys. Then Talia Gibson against Ann Lee. They've never played each other. Um, Honestly, Talia Gibson looks great. I just think she needs more experience on the tour. And Ann Lee seems to always pull through to at least a second or third round in these tournaments. Um, when she's playing someone who I'd say is like on equal footing. So I'll say Ann Lee to get through the match. Uh, all right. Then Yulia Putintseva versus Paula Badosa. Badosa leads the head to head 4-1, which doesn't surprise me. She has a lot of firepower. The issue with Paula is always her body. Can she sustain a match? She's also a past winner of Indian Wells, so I'm sure it's one of her favorite tournaments. And I think she'd want to get through this one. So I'll pick Badosa to go through. Then we've got again some buys. Then we've got Aya Tomjanovic versus Elena Gabriela Rusa. Rusa leads the head to head 1-0. I feel like they're similar type of player. I don't think I have too much to say, but I think yeah, Rusa should get through this match. Although Isla looked really good in Austin, she was done dirty in the final. Um, she was done dirty in her quarterfinal because she played it like 16 hours after playing a really long match against Eva Jovic. But yeah, I think Rusa to go through. Then Potapova versus Marina Stakusic. They've never played before. Potapova honestly has looked okay. She looked really good against Sabalenka at the Australian Open when she made her play 2 tie breaks. She still lost in straight sets, but she pushed her. But I think sometimes players are more up or play their best tennis when they're playing someone who's great than when they play someone who maybe is lower ranked or not at that same level. But I think Potapova should go through. Then we've got some more buys. Then we've got Donna Vekic and Teresa Valentova. Teresa Valentova is someone that I do have my eye on. I've just put a like little asterisk on her in my head, and they've never played before. She's been playing relatively well. I think I honestly think like obviously it'd be great to watch Donna Vekic play Jessica Pegula, but I think Valentova gets through this match. And I think it's time for her to start making a name for herself. Then we've got Katie Volinets versus Rebecca Stramkova. Katie's results for the past year haven't been great. Neither has Stramkova's either. But again, she leads the head to head 1-0. And I think I back Rebecca's firepower more than Katie's defensive capabilities. So Stramkova, then bye. Then we've got Buska versus Daria Vidamanova. Buska just won in Merida. So again, she's in like that habit of winning, and she's a steady player. And I think she can. Yeah, I think she'll be able to win this match. I don't know if she'll be able to, because the turnover for Indian Wells isn't as quick as other tournaments. So she's had time to rest and recover from the Merida tournament. And then the other finalist of Merida, Magdalena Freck. Um, yeah, I think she'll win over Storm Hunter. Then we've got more buys, and then this match to watch. Okay, so we've got Venus Williams versus Deanne Perry. Or Parry, I'm not sure. So Venus, watching her is great, and she still like has it in her unless matches go super long. But those early starts, she still has her serve. And for someone who's 45 and hasn't been playing super consistently over the past few years, she moves relatively well. But I think, I don't know, I just want like a fairy tale like run or something. So I'm picking with my heart. This is my draw. I can do whatever I want. So pick Venus Williams. Not to say I don't think Diane Perry can beat her. She can play really well on her day. Then we've got Sonia Katal versus Lanlana Tararudi. And I love seeing players from not tennis countries um, just be spotlighted or just be in the draw. I'm always looking out for them and backing them. In this case, I think Sonia Katal should come through okay. Although she hasn't been playing that well, I still think although she hasn't been playing that well, I still think that she'll do okay to get through to the second round to play Emma Navarro. Then couple of buys. Then Buskova versus Townsend. Buskova leads the head-to-head 1-0, but Taylor just came off her first singles final, like WTA final. So I think she's probably has a lot of confidence and is riding off a high from that. And again, with the turnaround time, she's had time to rest and recuperate. So I'm gonna pick for Taylor Townsend to get through that one. And then this one, I've already decided in my head because I want Haley to do well. I think Haley Baptiste should get through against Emiliana Arango. She has the game. She has the game. It's just about the mentality and the hard work behind it. Then we've got Peyton Stearns versus Solana Sierra. I think Peyton Stearns gets through that one. She's coming off a great win in Austin, Texas. So again, in the groove of winning, and she's one of like the best athletes on tour. So I think Peyton Stearns should get through that one. Then we've got Siniakova versus Sofia Kenin. Kenin has a game to beat Siniakova. Siniakova also has a game to beat Kenin. But I think Siniakova, Kenin, it just is not the same as when she won Australian Open and made that final of the French Open, in that she can't dig herself out of tough moments, because that was the biggest marker of those wins or that run to the French Open semi-final, is how tenacious she was and how she was able to dig herself out of tough situations. She just doesn't have that anymore. And I've seen her even in winning positions when she's playing really well, just lose her game completely or lose like her mental side completely. So I don't know. I kind of want a Kenan Sans, but I think I'll just pick Siniakova here to be safe. Then more buys. Then we've got Magdalene versus Ashton Kruger. Ashton Kruger, big hitter, great serve, streaky, very streaky. But I don't know. Magdalene, I haven't seen her play too much over the past few months, so I'm not too sure. Few tennis months, so I'm not too sure. Just looking at her results, I mean, she beat Ekaterina Alexandrova in Dubai, so that's a great result. Um, so I think looking at the past matches, Magdalena has beat a high caliber of player, and also pick Magdalena to go through that match. Then we've got Laura Sigemund versus Petra Marcinko. Sigemund, very frustrating player, and they've never played before. I think that's the biggest thing, is that they've never played before, and she takes a while to get used to and how she plays. So she's, yeah, a bit irritating um to the opponent. So I think Sigemund should go through. Then we've got Elsa Jacquemot versus Anna Bonda. Never played before. Elsa Jacquemot had a really big win at the Australian Open when she beat Marta Kostyuk, but she hasn't done too much since then. Um, Bonda's just been kind of going under the radar. I think Elsa Jacquemot should come through that match. I'm so sorry, there's something in my ear. All right, and then we've got Antonia Ruzic playing comeback queen, Jennifer Brady. Again, it's because Jennifer Brady's just coming back, and Antonia Ruzic, from what I've seen of her this year, she's playing great. She might not get over the edge, but she's playing really well. So I think she'll be able to take out Jennifer Brady. Again, they've never played before, so that's always a factor. Then we'll go to Varvara Gracheva versus Lily Tagger. I think Gracheva wins that match. Then Francesca Jones versus Kayla Day. I think Jones should come through that match. And then Iga has a bye. Then back up to the top. Okay, this match here is a potential banana skin for Sabalenka. If you've never heard that term, that just means it's a potential to make her slip up. Because Alicia Park matches her for power, and she has a great serve. When that serve is on, it's amazing. But Alicia can be streaky in matches, and Sabalenka is not the type of player that goes away easily, especially in bigger tournaments. But in saying that, Sabalenka hasn't played tennis since the Australian Open final, so we don't know what kind of player we're going to get. But I do trust her to at least make it to the round of 32. And then we've got Janice Chen versus Maya Joint. When yeah, they played. Was it the Australian Open? No, sorry, not the Australian Open. They played in Abu Dhabi, and yeah, Chen won that match, and I think she'll do it against. Sorry, I think she'll do it again against Maya Joint, which I'm sad to say. Then Eva Jovic versus Sloane Stevens. I think it would be great if Sloane Stevens could even get to the second round, but I just don't think she has the game anymore or the consistency anymore to beat these up and coming players, especially in Eva Jovic. And of course, I've never played before. Then Katie McNally versus Naomi Osaka. They've never played before. Naomi Osaka hasn't played since the Australian Open. And even in that match, her first two matches in the Australian Open were quite shaky. Like the first round against Antonia Ruzic, played 3 sets. And then that Castella match, she played 3 sets as well. And Katie McNally looks good. But Naomi has won here before. I assume she likes the conditions. So I'll just pick her to go through because, want some exciting matchups. And then we've got Mboko versus Oksana Selekmeteva. I think Mboko comes through that match. She's been playing really well. She's made 2 finals already, one of them being in 1,000. And she looks ready. She wants big titles. She wants majors. So, yeah, I would not be surprised if she made it all the way to the final in this tournament, but I also don't want to curse her. Then we've got Kessler versus Kalinskaya. The way Kalinskaya plays, if it's on, she'll beat McCartney Kessler. But again, injuries and just being sometimes inconsistent and being not as mentally tough. But I think that's always a bigger issue for Kalinskaya when she plays players that are higher ranked. She'll be like in a commanding position, and then the mental part of the game isn't at the same level as the physical part of her game. So against Kessler, she should be fine. They've never played before, so no reference point. Then we've got Raducanu versus Ella Seidel. I think Emma is probably feeling quite. I think she's feeling a bit more confident considering she made the final, her second ever final in Romania, the Transylvania Open. So I think Emma should go through okay. Actually, you know what? No, I think when I filmed a podcast about Indian Wells, and I think I said it's a potential slip. So I think she'll lose in the second round against Adele. Then Dalma Galfi against Amanda Anisimova. I think Anisimova wins this match as well, where she leads the head-to-head 1-0. Then we've got Goff versus Andreescu. Coco leads the head-to-head 1-0. And I think this is where it ends for Bianca on the road. And I think Coco will be switched on. She probably doesn't want similar loss to the one in Qatar or the one at the Australian Open, the quarterfinals. And then Shuai versus Alex Ayala. Ayala is a hard one because she has moments where she's playing really well and doing really well at a tournament, and then sometimes she just shows up to a tournament and is out straight away. And it makes sense. She doesn't have that much experience on the main tour. It's only been like a year. But I think for this tournament, she probably wants to do well before she goes to Miami, where she has a lot of points to defend. So I'll say Ayala to go through to the third round. Then Schneider versus Castella. Honestly, Schneider, I have not been impressed lately. She's just like slowly falling further and further down the rankings, and she hasn't. I don't think she's had like a breakthrough big tournament yet. It could be here in Indian Wells, and she's got like Sasha Bajin as her coach, which I like, and I think she needs to give him some time to see the rewards that can be reaped. But Castella is playing really well. Like, I'm impressed by her. So I think Castella to go through. And then we've got JBM versus Noskova. Noskova, have they ever played before? Oh, sorry, back to Castella and Schneider. I hadn't even checked the head-to-head. Castella does lead at 1-0. Then, yeah, JBM Noskova. Honestly, it's kind of a toss-up, but I don't think Jessica has been playing that great. So I'll go Noskova to go through in that match. Then we've got Alexandrova versus Anne Lee. Alexandrova leads that head-to-head 2-0, and she has a lot of firepower, which I think could overwhelm Anne Lee. So pick Alexandrova to go through. And then we've got Badosa versus Clara Towson. Badosa leads the head-to-head 3-1, which doesn't surprise me. They're a similar type of player. And I think when Badosa is at her best, when she's healthy, she's a better mover than Clara. And I think that's what gets her over the edge. But at the moment, Clara is playing some okay tennis, could be better. I think she beats Badosa. Then Jin Yu Wang versus Rusa. They've never played before. Every time I watch Rusa play, I'm always impressed, but I'm always disappointed that she just can't get over the line. And she'll be playing a really consistent player who can match her shot for shot, but also, in my opinion, serves better and is just more consistent throughout the match. Difficult one, but I'll go. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna pick Rusa to go through. Then Potapova Paulini. The head-to-head is equal, one apiece, and Paulini hasn't been very impressive from the Australian Open to Qatar to Dubai. She's just been falling and losing relatively easily. And I think if Potapova brings her best game, she can do the same thing to Paulini. Then we've got Jessica Pegula versus Valentova. The way Jess has been playing, how consistent she's been, I think she beats Valentova. And she also just won in Dubai. So again, should be feeling herself very confident. Then Stromkova versus Ostapenko. I mean, she leads a head-to-head 4-0. And when Ostapenko leads a head-to-head by that much, it's rare that she'll let that she'll let that head to head change. So I think Ostapenko gets through that match. I know she's very streaky and she doesn't play in the first round, so you don't know what you're gonna get. But I think she'll be able to bring it all together against Ramkova. Then Mertens versus Buska. I can always rely on Mertens to at least make it to the third round of big big tournaments. Their head to head is two apiece, and Buska's coming from that win in Merida. So I actually think Buska wins that match against Mertens. Then Magdalena Freck versus Belinda Bencic. I think Bencic, in a way, wants to avenge herself from the Australian Open loss because I had her tipped to make the final. She was playing really, really well, not just at the United Cup, but even last year, her comeback year, she played really, really well. So I think Bencic will go through against Magdalena Freck. Then Madison Keys against Venus Williams. I think this is just like a dream matchup for me. But I think, although Madison Keys hasn't played tennis since the Australian Open, I think she can dig herself. If, let's say, Venus Williams is leading the match, I think Madison will be able to dig herself out to then win the match. Then Sonia Katal versus Emma Navarro. They've never played. Emma's been quite streaky, just not the same as when she debuted on tour or even her second year on tour. Um, but she has played well in the past at Indian Wells. I think she's made the quarterfinals before. So we'll say Emma Navarro to go through to the third round. Then we've got Marta Kostyuk versus Taylor Townsend. Marta Kostyuk is coming back from injury and she hasn't played tennis since that Australian Open injury. So I'm not too sure what we'll see because she was playing really, really great tennis at the Brisbane International preceding the Australian Open. But I don't know if we'll see that same level straight away. And also considering she has a bye, you don't know how the player will show up. She does lead the head to head 1-0. So I think now I'll say Taylor to get through the match. Then we've got Baptiste versus Rybakina. Rybakina had pulled out in her match in Dubai against Antonia Ruzic. And she does lead the head-to-head 1-0 against Haley. She's just a steadier player and more experienced. And again, has a higher ceiling and a higher level. So I think we're backing it to come through if there are no nickels or injuries there. And that's how I'm just going to look at all the players. Like they're perfectly healthy if they've entered the tournament. Except for Badosa, because there's some players that their health background, it just is always a factor. And then looking at Mira Andreeva versus Peyton Stearns. This is a potential banana skin for Mira Andreeva. But because she didn't defend her title in Dubai, I think she has a lot of motivation to at least make it to the final and try and defend her title here at Indian Wells. Because it's the biggest title she's won, and I think she wants to still be on that upwards trajectory, which has kind of stalled in the last, I would say, like last 10 months. Sinekova versus Fernandez. They lead the head-to-head 1-1. I can never back Layla. She's always seeded and can play well here and there, especially at some of the smaller tournaments. But these big tournaments, I find it really hard to back her, even as a seed. But Siniakova is also balancing that doubles and singles thing, and she plays at a very high level in doubles. So we'll say Fernandez to get through to the third round. Then Samsonova versus Magdalenette. Again, I'm not sure which Samsonova will show up. Let's look at their head-to-head. Okay, she leads the head-to-head 3-1. So some matches are just about like matchups, and maybe Samsonova has too much power and overwhelms Lynette. So I'm just going to look at the head-to-head and just pick Samsonova to get through. Then Lara Sigerman versus Svitolina. That one's easy for me. I'll pick Svitolina to get through that match. Then Mukova versus Jacques Moore. They've never played before, but I think Mukova will get through to that match. Then Qinwen Zhang versus Antonia Ruzic. I think it's a really difficult match for Chinwen. I think she's someone who probably would have been better off having a round one match, considering she's still coming back from injury. She's played okay, but she needs to get more matches under her belt. And Antonia Ruzic is, I think she's a confident player. She's confident in her abilities, and they've never played before, so that might be take some time for Chinwen to figure out. But now I'll pick Ruzic to get through that match. And then we've got Sakari versus Gracheva. I think, yeah, I was about to say they played recently. I think Sakari gets through that match against Gracheva. Then we've got Francesca Jones versus Iga Swiatek. I think Iga gets through that match. Then to the third round. So we've got Sabalenka versus Janice Chen. They've never played before, but I think Sabalenka should be fine to get through that match. I think that's one of her easier possible matchups in this quarter. Then we've got Iva Jovic versus Naomi Osaka. They've never played before. Naomi Osaka is, I haven't seen her since the Australian Open, so it's hard to say. And if she shows up this match the same way she showed up in the Australian Open in her first two matches, I think Iva Jovic will beat her. So that's what I'm just gonna go by. And then we've got Mboko versus Kalinskaya. Well, looking at the head-to-head, it's weird. Although Mboko is younger and has less experience, I find it to be like the steadier player, if that makes sense. So I think pick her to win over Kalinskaya. Then we've got Seidel versus Anisimova. They've never played before, but Anisimova should be fine to get through that match. Then Goff versus Ayala. They played literally like a week ago or something. Where they play? Yeah, in Dubai. And Coco won that match quite easily, 6-love, 6-2. And I think for Coco, players that aren't coming with, especially with the serve, and are not super powerful hitters, I think she can dispatch them relatively easily. Then we've got Kastea versus Noskova. Kastea leads the head-to-head 1-1. And I haven't seen too much of Noskova. I haven't watched a lot of her matches this year. But I'm expecting big things from Noskova now this year. I think this is the year she needs to cement herself, especially as someone who's like playing just outside the top 10. I think a big win, she can catapult herself into the top 10. Then we've got Alexandrova versus Towson. Towson leads the head-to-head 2-0, which I know they're very similar type of players, but that doesn't surprise me, because I think we'll say a 3-set match, I think Towson's more consistent than Alexandrova. So pick Towson to go through. Then Potapova versus Rusa. I think either one of these women making it to the fourth round would be a big surprise. I think Potapova has a bit more firepower and will beat Rusa. Then we've got Pegula versus Ostapenko. Head-to-head is equal. This one's difficult because, again, with Ostapenko, you don't know which one is going to show up. If the Ostapenko that is hitting every spot and with like this much margin is there, then I think should be able to beat Jessica Pegula. Should be able to beat anyone. But I don't know if she'd be able to sustain that for a whole match against Jessica Pegula. So I think JPEGs gets through that one. Then Buska versus Bencic. Buska leads the head-to-head 1-0, but I think Bencic should come through. Then we've got Keys versus Navarro. Navarro leads the head-to-head 2-1, but I don't know if we're talking about this Emma Navarro. And I think Madison Keys has enough firepower and can play. Now I think she can play for a consistent level for like long enough to beat Emma. Although Emma's a great defender, so it maybe takes 1 or 2 extra shots to beat her. Then we've got Townsend versus Rybakina. Elena leads a head-to-head 1-0, and I'm backing her to beat Taylor Townsend. And then I just realized that I never picked a winner here, so Mira Andreeva. And Mira Andreeva against Fernandez. The head to head is equal or one apiece, but I think Mira's game is a lot better and at a different level than Layla's, and she has different ways of playing and winning a match. And then we've got Samsonova versus Svitolina. They've never played. That's really, really interesting considering they've both been on the tour for a while and at like not the same level, but similar. Oh, interesting. I don't have a lot to go on for this one. I think Elena Svitolina is a player I always say you have to beat her. She doesn't beat herself. She doesn't make a lot of errors. And she's playing with a lot more aggression. So I pick her to go through to the round of 16. Okay, and then we've got Karolina Mukova versus Antonia Ruzic. Mukova leads the head-to-head 1-0. And I think she wins this match as well, just based on ceiling in terms in a match and what I've seen and experience. And then we've got Sakari versus Swiatek. The head to head is equal, and most recently, Sakari beat Iga in the quarterfinals of Qatar. But Indian Wells is the place where Iga likes to beat Sakari, especially in a final. She's done it twice now, and I think she'll do it again in the round of 32. And I think Iga in that match in Qatar, she was quite close to winning the match, but I don't know, she let the game get out of hand, and not just her letting the game out of hand. Maria Sakkari played amazingly and was so steady and trusted her game. So I think she'll be able to. Sorry, let me fix my camera. I think she'll be able to. Sorry, I think Iga will be able to beat Sakkari in this case. Then round of 16. So round of 16, we've got Sabalenka versus Iva Jovic. They've played once, which was at the Australian Open in the quarterfinals, and Sabalenka won that match relatively easily. But I think now it'll be a closer match considering Iva Jovic has had that experience. But I still think it'll take a couple more tries for Jovic to beat Sabalenka if they make it to the round of 16. Then Boko versus Anisimova. Ooh, that's a great match. That is a great match. Interesting. Interesting. Sorry, I'm really thinking here. I think I don't know. I think Mboko makes it. I don't know why. I just have this like inkling. And then we've got Noskova versus Goff. And again, Goff frustrates these hard hitting players because she is such a great defender, anticipator, and mover. So it takes like three extra balls to be able to hit a winner against her. And by that point, you're tired and you probably end up making an unforced error. So it makes sense that Noskova has lost to her twice now. And I think that will happen again. Yeah, I think that will happen again. All right, sorry, I just had to stretch there for a second. Then moving on to the next game in the fourth round, we've got Towson versus Potapova. Interesting, this surprises me a little bit. So Potapova leads the head to head 2-1 against Towson. But I think, because I've already predicted on my podcast episode that Towson will get through to the quarterfinals, so I have to back myself. So Towson Potapova, Towson to go through. And then moving on to the next match, which is Pagula versus Bencic. Bencic leads that head to head 4-0, which is a bit wild, if you ask me. And again, on the podcast, I predicted Bencic makes the quarters, and I think she will against Pagula. Then we've got Keys Rybakina. Rybakina leads the head to head 3-2. And I think she'll be able to beat Madison Keys. She just won Australian Open. She has a bit more more matches under her belt. And Madison Keys is just coming back from, not from injury, but just from not playing. So we're backing her to get through. Then this one, I think Mira needs to avenge herself from that Australian Open loss. Because I was at a loss for words. I feel like she just never showed up for that match. Against Svitolina, played well, aggressive, but I was not very impressed with Mira. So I think she avenges herself against Svitolina. And then Mukova versus Swiatek. Iga leads the head-to-head 3-1, which I was aware of. And I think she loves playing in the desert, and I think she'll be able to beat Mukova. Then my quarterfinals. So Sabalenka versus Mboko. They played at the Australian Open. Sabalenka won. She won the first set easily, and then the second set she won it, but it was very difficult, and she took the scenic route to get there. And I think Mboko is just getting more and more and more confidence as she stays on the tour. She plays some of these higher ranked opponents, and she just beat Elena Rybakina a couple weeks ago in Qatar, and I think she'll be able to beat the world number one for the first time. So I'll pick her to beat Sabalenka. And then Goff Towson. They've never played before, which surprises me. If Clara plays her game and is patient, I think she can beat Coco. But if she's not patient, I think Coco will force her to spray so many unforced errors. But now I'm just going off what I wrote in my in my book, my original preview of the podcast, because I have to be consistent, guys. Um, okay, and then Bencic Rybakina. I think Rybakina beats Bencic. Although Bencic leads a head-to-head 2-1, I think the way Elena's playing right now, and if she's, I guess, shows up to Indian Wells playing the way she was playing in Australia, and she's won the tournament before, I think she'll be able to beat Bencic. Then Mira against Iga. Mira leads a head-to-head 2-1. She's beaten Iga 2 times in a row, but I don't think Iga will let that happen again. She's become a more aggressive player, and her game has changed. That is Iga, and I think for some parts it's changed for the better. But then she's also regressed in things she used to do really well. So I'm not too sure, but I think she will want to prove something against Andreeva, especially having lost the last 2 meetings. Okay. And then semifinals, we've got Mboko versus Clara Towson and Elena Rybakina versus Iga Swiatek. I think they played recently in Australian Open, Mboko versus Towson. And I think Mboko is a more well-rounded player, and she's a way better mover than Towson. But nerves came into that match that she ended up overcoming to beat Towson, but Towson had her Towson had her opportunities in that match. She just didn't take them at the Australian Open. So I think in this match, she'll get opportunities again, and I think she'll take them. And then with the Elena Rybakina versus Iga match, they're now equal in the head-to-head. Rybakina used to have Iga's number, but the head-to-head ended up swaying a little bit, and it was in favor of Iga, but recently Elena beat her at the Australian Open, so that's why it's on equal footing now. And because in my head I've predicted this person to win the whole tournament, I think, especially in the desert, I think she'll be able to beat Rybakina. So I'm picking Iga to win that semi-final, and then I guess spoiler, out of Swiatek versus Towson, I think looking at the head-to-head, Iga leads at 3-1, and then Towson, it'll be like her first. I mean, she's made the final for 1,000 before, but I think it would be a very big final a really big final for her. But then on the other side, you've got Iga, who's been in a lot of finals, and she rarely loses in them, especially at Indian Wells. So I pick Iga to be our predicted champion. We got there in the end. That's all. Thank you so much for watching this video. I haven't been posting. I'm really scared of the YouTube thing. It's not my thing, but I'm going to try and do better and just give you more, I don't know, as the kids say, content out there. What else do I have to say? Oh, yes, please listen to my most recent podcast episodes and any other episodes you haven't listened to. Download them as well. I'm available on Spotify, Buzzsprout, and Apple Podcasts. And then also go follow the Instagram, which is at EWWT podcast. And I post sometimes on there. It also just lets you know when I've got new episodes up on the podcast. But I hope you enjoyed that video. Please comment, like, subscribe. And if you have any video ideas or things you want to hear from me, please let me know and I'll be happy to oblige. Thanks. Bye.